first, because I never do that. I think that's working. And let's see, let's go to, I'm going to share the screen. Yes. And I don't want to refer a friend. Let's go to Blackboard. And I'm going to mute all of you for now. But if you, if you want to speak, just unmute yourself or wave at me and I'll unmute you, okay? So if I go to 603, these are all the items that it shows that I need to grade. Now, if you notice, these say OMA Task 1. That means that you have already been through the peer review process. You have already made the revisions that your peers suggested, and you are ready for me to look at it to give you a grade. At the same time, you have gone out to the internship shell, and you have posted that for Dr. Whitaker to review, and she will also give you recommendations. Now, the reason I haven't corrected any of these or scored any of these yet is because Dr. Whitaker and I are working together. So we decided that she would look at yours first and make sure that you made the revisions that your peers suggested and that you made any revisions that she suggested before you submit it to me for a grade. So I'm waiting on her to give me the okay before I go in and give you a grade on your paper. So I hope that makes sense. Now, if you see here where you see peer review, let's see. Melanie, may I open yours? Okay, so I'm going to open what Melanie has here. And if you'll see, it says OMA 2 here. If I open it up, this is where she's posted what she sent to her peers for review. All right? Now I'm going to take you up to like the grade board and show you where your actual grades show. And I think when I take you up here, you're going to start seeing why it's so crazy. And again, let's see. Sarah, can we take a look at yours? Let me unmute you. Sarah, yes. Is it okay if we look at yours?
Sure.
Okay. So if you look up here at the top in the dark gray, this tells you what the score is for. So Sarah has a total of 601 points. So when you start going across, I'm going to go across quickly. All right, so if you look right here, she has 100 points. That is because Sarah submitted her OMA 1 either in the wrong place or jumped the gun, whatever. That's what we were talking about earlier. But whatever happened, I went ahead and evaluated it. So did Dr. Whitaker. And even though I gave her 100, she knows there are things that her peers and Dr. Whitaker want, and I want her to fix. So she's going to fix those and resubmit it before she does it to TaskStream.
Yep.
All right. So now, but if you go on down, this is You see this right here? That says OMA Task 1 peer review. So if I've seen that you have done a peer review and you've received a peer review, you will have 100 here. This one, right beside it, says Task 2 peer review. Do you know what's wrong with that? The problem is that Gardner Webb requires you to have 2 peer reviews, and there wasn't a spot for that. So that's why Dr. Whitaker and I said you only had to do 1. And Dr. Lamb came back and said, no, it's 2. So watch where it comes up. Way past that, all the way back here. And there's your second peer review, and that's where it shows up. And then back, you'll have the same thing for task 2, and then way back here, you'll have the task 2 review. And see, this will stay with you all the way across. Then you get into discussion board. So here's the first one right here that you did on entering your contact information. Then you had one where you did your school safety plan. Then you had your field trip thing. Then you had to respond to the, how you felt about this awesome responsibility of being liable for things. So those are your discussion board scores. So I'm not sure how, if you know how to go in and look across, but up here is what it shows as what's being scored. And then down here, it shows your total score. But if you go across, it'll break it down for you.
So for the peer reviews, there's 2 for the first task. Do we put them in the same place? Or are there 2 separate? Whenever I was looking at the Dropbox, it said OMA 1 peer review. But do you keep scrolling down below that and there's a place for another one? Or do you put both of them?
Let's look, because some of you have done it together and some did it separate. And either way, I get it. So
okay, right here on that part. Is there one at the bottom?
So that says task 1 peer review. And when I open it up, here is the thread. So I have, let's see, this is the one for Becky to review. I think this is the one that you reviewed. This was a response from that. And then this was my response. So I'm thinking there's a place on discussion board for you to do peer 2. A peer 2 review.
I don't think she's asking about the discussion board. I think she's asking in the assignment Dropbox.
All right, let's look at that.
Because if you click on assignment Dropbox, and then it'll have OMA 1, and I'm sorry, I sound horrible.
That's
and right here where it says OMA 1, task 1 peer review.
Right.
So if you go back, are we supposed to put both of them there? Or if you go back to the assignment Dropbox and scroll down underneath all the different artifacts click that, and then go all the way down.
Yeah.
Is there another place for OMA 2?
Let's
see, it stops right there. It stops at the sit, or the one that starts with a C. I can't pronounce that.
I got you, Cap.
So do we put both of them in the task 1 peer review? Put both reviews there?
Yes.
Because that's what I did. Because I did get your email earlier, and I just had mine, like Chanel said, mine were just on the discussion board as well. And I went back this afternoon, and I put both of mine in there. But I put them under OMA 1, but I put both of my peer reviews there.
I was going to say, are you able to? Because sometimes in Blackboard, in something like that, you can only submit something once. And then, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not familiar with this new Blackboard, but I have been trained in Blackboard. So sometimes when you do that, I would suggest that you maybe put both with OMA 1 and just make it like 2 in one file so you can have them both. Because sometimes when you submit, it'll only let you submit one thing, and then so you have to go back and submit it again after it's been graded or whatever. So I
Melanie,
just want.
can you tell them how you did yours? Because yours came through right. Wait a minute, let me unmute her.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, what I did was when I went down to the assignment, I dropped down where it says OMA peer review, OMA 1 peer review. What I did was when I went there, I dropped down, I opened it up, and then I hit browse my computer, and I found the first one and uploaded it. So if you can just find something to upload, and then I found right there and uploaded that.
All right, I'm not going to do that because I don't know that I can take it out.
And then before I hit submit, I went back and hit browse my computer again. And I did a second one and then hit submit at the bottom.
Okay.
So I just uploaded 2 files.
And I think several of you did that way. And that's the way it came through, and I was able to grade it that way. So,
excuse me, and that's how I did mine. I submitted it the same way. My browser computer, I uploaded 2 different files, and then I hit submit. But
and is that Turnell?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, because I got yours correct too, I believe. Didn't I send you an email?
No, ma'am. I didn't receive a follow-up email. You had sent me an email in regards to I don't check the GC the Garner Web email as frequently as I should.
Shame on you. I think that's the only one I have for you.
No, you've been sending it to my actual job.
Did I send it to Guilford County?
Yes, ma'am. You've been sending actually to Guilford County, so I didn't receive a follow-up email. However, I did get the email.
Okay, everybody close your eyes because I'm going to look at his.
Oh, that's fine. I know.
There, you have 2 reviews that have been submitted, so you're good.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I saw 2 of your peer reviews.
Okay.
All right. All right, so what other questions do you have about your assignments before we talk about this great chapter 5?
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
The one is about peer reviews, since we're already on that topic.
Okay.
Some people, whenever they do peer reviews, I've noticed that they'll copy the whole paper on Word and go in and make comments
Yes.
on Word and then attach the peer review form to the bottom of the paper.
Right.
Is it preferred to have that format, or do you just want the template with the peer review and our feedback?
I just want the template with your peer review and your feedback.
Okay.
That's
Thank
what
you.
we want.
The other question is about Blackboard. On the whenever I log in and go to Blackboard and click my Gardner Web, it pulls up my courses.
Okay.
And I put it to where, excuse me, sorry. One of them is 201720, which is this class, Resource Management. And then I have one listed as 201620, Executive Leadership. And that has, I think everybody in the department is listed as an instructor. And then the clinical internship with Dr. Lamb and Dr. Whitaker. For the clinical internship submissions that we do they go in the clinical internship shell or the executive leadership internship shell?
They go to the clinical shell.
Do we even need the executive leadership shell
You
on
do not.
our course?
You do not, and I don't know why it might be showing up, but just ignore it because they're working on all that. But here's the thing, guys. I'm half of you, some of you, I'm your instructor, and Dr. Whitaker is your coach. The other half of you, Dr. Whitaker is your instructor, and Dr. Whitaker is your coach. And then you want me just to complicate you a little bit more. Some of you, I am your coach 1, but I'm your coach, I'm your instructor, and Dr. Whitaker is your coach 2. Isn't that fun? It just means you have lots of us that love you and care about you, and we're here to make sure that you're successful. So there's 2 things you need to get straight, all right? First of all is this semester, I trump Dr. Whitaker if I'm your instructor. Okay? If Dr. Whitaker is your instructor, then she is your main person. So if I'm your instructor, that means you're coming to me first. So you go to discussion board, you upload your peer reviews there, and then when you upload your OMA 1 to be reviewed by me, you upload it to the internship shell for Dr. Whitaker at the same time. Dr. Whitaker will look at it first, and then if she okays it, she will send it to me and tell me to go ahead and grade it. If she finds a problem with it, she will tell you what you need to fix, and then you will fix it, and I'll go in to make sure that you made her corrections. Does that make sense? So like I need a little thumbs up here, or I have no idea what you're talking about.
I better go with I have no idea what you're talking about, just because I really don't want to turn my video on. But that, yes, thank you for clarifying that, because I had put it in the executive leadership internship shell, and Dr. Lamb read it.
Where I wondered how Dr. Lamb got into it.
Yeah, well, that's how, because that's still showing up on my courses.
Right.
So I'm just going to remove that shell from my dashboard. Thank you so much.
That would be great. That would be great. That would save you a lot of.
I think it would save us all a lot of, thanks.
All right, but Sarah, are you clear now on what I do and what she does?
Yes, ma'am. I just wasn't sure about that other internship shell, the third one that was going on.
Okay, Ternell, how can I help you? I cannot send you Tylenol. So.
I mean, I'll figure it out. Like I said, it's a little different compared to last semester. So we'll work through the logistics. I'm willing to, do whatever I have to do in order to complete what I'm trying to do. So
let me just tell you this. The issue is that anything that you put in task stream, every time you enter task stream, you see big dollar signs. Every time. Every time I go into task stream, big dollar signs. And there's no tracking of it. And once the semester is over, it's gone. None of us have access to it. So that's why we're trying to create these forms in Blackboard, so that for accreditation purposes, if nothing else, they can track how many times I look at your work, how many times you submit your work to me, how many times we talk back and forth, how many times I offer you video support to look at the credibility of our program. So that's why we're changing to Blackboard. And I know it can be a pain. Anything's a pain to change. But this is the purpose of it. And in there, you will have 2 completely different courses. One is an internship course with Dr. Whitaker that will stay with you till the end when you graduate. The other is your current instructional course, which will change every semester. This semester, it's me or Dr. Whitaker. So you will either have Dr. Whitaker, you will have Dr. Zayons and Dr. Whitaker, but you will have 2 classes. The instructional class is where you go to discussion board and post your assignments, your peer reviews, and all of that. The coach is where you take your artifact, task 1, 2, and so forth, right before you think you're done, to get the okay to send it to task stream, or to get advice on what needs to be corrected so it'll pass when it gets to task stream. Okay? So that's basically the 2 things you're dealing with in Blackboard. If some of it may be working right, some of it may not, but the most important thing is to remember, when you're posting stuff for me, you're going through discussion board in most cases. until you get ready to post an assignment, and then you go to the assignment Dropbox. But if you post it in the wrong place, we'll tell you. And that's why I send you these emails and say, hey, I have a grade for this and this, but not one for this. You have this, but you're missing that. I'm just telling you and staying on top of it with you as to what I'm seeing, so that you won't be scooting along thinking, man, I have got this. I've done everything I'm supposed to, and it's all in the right place, only to find out you did it, but it's in the wrong place. So that's why we're trying to, and she and I are talking like 2 and 3 times a week about you. All right. Any more questions about Blackboard?
I have one.
Yes.
So after we get the okay and we submit it to the assignment Dropbox, we're supposed to go on TaskStream website and do it there?
No.
Okay.
You don't go to TaskStream until Dr. Whitaker says go to TaskStream.
Okay.
But you will not go to TaskStream until you have the whole thing put together at the very end.
Okay.
Like at the very end of the semester.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Something like April the 12th. And that's another thing, just keep in mind. This semester doesn't end until May, but your work is going to have to be finished by about the middle of April. So keep that in mind. You do not have until the middle of May. It has to be in TaskStream by the middle of April so that it can get evaluated and give you a chance to fix it if it doesn't pass. Okay? All right. So we good? Do you want to talk about law? Okay. So let's talk about this great chapter 5, which was a big bunch of stuff. So let's start with, I didn't get any questions emailed to me, which is a good thing, because it shows me that you know everything you're talking about with school law. So I'm just curious, as you read through chapter 5, did you have things that really jumped out at you? Things that scare you, things that comforted you, things that you were concerned about, or things that you perhaps didn't understand? Or maybe examples of things that you've experienced. And I'm going to try to unmute everybody. I can't. There you go. So I think everybody's unmuted now, maybe?
It'll ask you to unmute. It should.
There you go. Okay. So what comments, questions, concerns, experiences? Lori, I know you've had some experiences. All right, well, I'll just kind of walk through it and tell you some of the things that jumped out at me. And the first thing is, I want you to, I'm curious to know how many of you have a dress policy. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Not a uniform policy, but a dress code or dress policy.
We have students that are trying to get ours rewritten as we speak.
All right. All right, now, hands down, and tell me this. How many of you wear uniforms to school? All right, hands down. Now, Kendra and Ternell, I think you're the only two that have uniforms. What's the poverty level of your school, Ternell?
What did you just say?
What's your poverty level?
We have the highest poverty level in Guilford County.
Kendra, how about you?
Probably less than 20%.
Interesting. And okay, in 2006, I was in Kannapolis City Schools. And Kannapolis City Schools is a high poverty district. and it is a total Title I district. So all of the schools, including Title I schools. And in 2006, the board approved a uniform policy. And I was against it until that first day of school in 2000. Well, actually, it wasn't 2006, it was 2005. The first day of school, when I stood at the door to greet the children as they got off the bus, and they walked in the school, and I could not believe the difference just in the attitude, and it's elementary, but still, their whole attitude was different. They were more respectful. They were calmer. It was unbelievable, the difference. So I'm interested. Janelle, did you have that experience with that? Did you notice that?
Well, I just had a situation yesterday. Kid came to school. We call it SMOD, Standard Mode of Dress. They came to school out of SMOD. This particular student is, he's one of our high flyers at times. And he kind of got upset yesterday because he had to follow the procedure of SMOD. But the majority of what you're saying is actually true. They come to school in a different demeanor because they know everyone's going to be dressed and everyone's going to look the same. Because a lot of things that happen, like, I know when I was a kid growing up, individuals would pick on me, because of what I didn't have or what I wore to school and how I dressed. So with them in the SMOD, everyone looks the same. So it's my experience thus far.
Yeah. Becky?
So can I tell you on a parent level, because when my daughter was in pre-K, she went to a Catholic full-day preschool. It was like full day, 5 days a week. It was the best thing ever. But she had to wear a uniform. And even just on a parent standpoint, walking in the building, when I would drop her off or pick her up or anything, it was very orderly. It was very calm. I agree with you. It was definitely a different atmosphere. Even, it's a Catholic school, but still, Catholic schools can be off the chain. Let's just be real. They can be. Right. But this one, and it was a K-8 too. So it was still you're right. It was very calm. It was very, they were collective. It was not crazy.
When we looked at the data for doing school uniforms, really the biggest issue with school uniforms is the reduction in tardies and absences. When parents don't have to argue with kids over what they're going to wear in the morning, and when kids don't have to hunt to find something to wear in the morning, you would not believe the research. So if you ever are in that argument about anything or just want to find some interesting research, and now again, I haven't done that research since 2006, so I'm not sure what it shows now, but I do know that that my 12-year-old granddaughter is wearing uniforms this year in middle school for the first time. And her mother was appalled because she doesn't get to wear her cute little outfits. But I also know that there are lots of fewer arguments in the morning and that she's on time. So the thing I found interesting when I read these different laws and rules and things that have happened is, I guess you can tell I'm a bit older than you are. In 1972, when I was in high school, we actually voted for girls to wear pants to school. West Mecklenburg High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we had to vote, student council voted whether girls could wear pants or not. It was a huge argument because the fear was that they would quit wearing pantsuits and they would wear army fatigues or jeans, and heaven forbid what would happen if they did that. That just shows you, when you think, about all of these rules and all of these laws, all of the changes that I've seen in my lifetime. The other thing that happened, I was reading about the right for students to to have sit-ins and to protest, and the right of you as a school to block those, and for what reasons you can block those. And I can tell you again, 1971 and 1972, some of the riots that we had that were reported on 60 Minutes as racial riots, they were riots where we met at the corner store in the morning and talked about the test that we were having that day, and we planned to sit in just to get out of class. Some of those things. So that's how all of these laws, that's the background of all of them. Now, by the same token, we had some definite riots that were racially charged. Nobody wants to be told August 1st that the school that your family has gone to and all your neighbors have gone to and your brothers and sisters have gone to, you're not going there. You're going somewhere else with people you don't know. And that's pretty much what happened in Charlotte, all over Charlotte at that time. So there was a lot of tension for that, and a lot of things that were fought for valid reasons. But when you read these rules about your rights as a principal, the thing you need to think about is, what is the motivation behind their expression of their opinions? What is the motivation? But also, what's it going to cause for the school day? Is it going to disrupt your school day? I don't know if you read all about the clothing issues, the T-shirts, and probably if you're in high school, I have 2 daughter-in-laws that teach in high school. I know they're much more involved in that than I was at elementary. But all of those things that, you as a principal have a lot more rights than you might think you do, but you better be sure you have a superintendent and a board of education that's going to back you up. That's what Chapter 5 is all about. Yes, Lori?
That's what I wondered. When it comes to like students coming with like rebel flags or something like that on their clothing, at what point am I crossing a freedom of speech line, or am I protecting someone from hate? I mean, as a future administrator, and when I was reading this, thoughts in my head were what you just said. Will the school board, will the superintendent have my back if I put a kid out or tell him he has to change his shirt, or am I infringing on his right to speech? Just what kind of experience you've had with that.
And that's the whole point, is when you do take a job in administration, to me, the most important thing is you need to know who you're working for.
Yeah.
The system that I worked for, they were black and white on what the rules were, on what my guidelines were, on what things I had the right to say and not say, and what I could prevent students from doing and not. I never once questioned when I stopped a student or a parent from doing something. I never questioned whether I was in the right or not. I knew it. I didn't know it when I took the job, but they gave us in-service as I went to survival school for beginning principals. And then after that, we had in-service as principals at our principals meetings every month, where officers came and presented the latest in gang activity in our area, and the latest colors and the latest symbols, and I had people to call. And then the second thing is, I had a mentor principal that was a lot more experienced.
Hi, are the custodians still here?
That
Okay.
I could call and say, "That's all right, I'm just gonna shut you down, girl." That I could call, and they would back me up and tell me what to do. So, Lori, I was always very confident. I got that feeling from your school that you have that type of thing. I visited your school, and I got that feeling from your school that you have that type of thing in place. Is that right?
And we have some really good, our dress code and our administrators are pretty good about following it. It's just those kind of gray areas where you don't want to get in a sticky media situation, because that's one of those things where somebody loves to call whoever's on your side at the local TV station. And I guess I would get with, as an assistant, my administrator and ask, what's the call on this kind of thing, before I would make a decision.
The only time I made mistakes, and I didn't make many, but when I did, man, they were good. But when I made them with students, parents, or teachers, it was a situation where I reacted to something. It was a situation where I walked in a classroom and a teacher was doing something, and before I stopped and asked or looked, or I reacted not so happy, or made a judgment that I talked about later. Those are the only times I ever messed up, Lori, and that's the point. Is you would never, you might walk through the hall and see something, but before you say, get that cap off your head, you better go back in your office and make sure that you're in the right for saying that, because once it's out of your mouth, you can't take it back.
Thank you.
And I think that's the main thing that I got from this chapter is it's all so much of law, of this kind of law that we're talking about in chapter 5, is based on intent. Their intent and your intent. So what is your intent for blocking something? What is their intent for wearing it? And you can toss those amendments back and forth and back and forth. I really think the bottom line is, I think the schools have a lot of leeway in making sure that we have a safe environment for all students. And I think the law backs us up with that. But I think we have to work within the law. And so all of these guidelines that you read, if you look at these court cases, you'll see they'll do one court case and then another and another. So it's one time they'll rule this way, one time they rule that way. So if you just always read in the chapter, it always follows up with the intent of school personnel to make sure that it's a safe and orderly environment. The intent of school personnel to make sure that all students are protected. That's your intent. So if you ban a hat just because you don't like what it says, that's one thing. But if you ban it because there is a group of students, and you had that over and over and over again, that for gender, for race, there's a whole list of them, that they feel threatened or put upon in any way or offended by whatever that cap says, then you're in the right. So, but I wouldn't make that call unless you know you're in the right with a big bunch of people behind you. You understand? And that's your main thing. I would be very leery of taking a job with a system that didn't have hard, fast rules and guidelines, student code of conduct at the system level and the school level. And your director of student services, I had my director of student services and my cell phone on speed dial. I'm not even there anymore. I still have her on speed dial. Because if I was about to respond to a home situation or anything, I just called her. And, that's her job, is to know that law better than I do. Becky, do you have a question?
I actually have a comment. I'm still a classroom teacher. So I kind of have stuff like that in my room, in my classroom right now. And it's been going on since the beginning of football season. And it's still going on. So I have, and it's only on, I teach science, and I teach science every other day. I'm 6th grade. So my A-day science kids, I probably have 3 kids that stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And then on my B day, I have most of my class standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. But and I've had this conversation with them, you know what I mean?
Right.
And because they told me, they're like, because we don't do the national anthem, my sixth graders are protesting for,
Right.
do you know what I mean? Like they're protesting because we don't sing the national anthem, they're protesting and they're sitting for the pledge. And I told them, I said, that's fine, but you got to be respectful to the ones who are. And they do. And they are respectful to the
That's
ones
it.
they are. They don't talk while the people that are doing it, and they are, like, I've had to remind them because they are sixth graders, and, but,
And I was looking for the case. It's on, it is Hardwick versus Hayward.
Mhm.
And it's where I think they were Jehovah's Witness, and they were complaining against their children having to stand for the pledge.
Yep.
And the court ruled in their favor. They do not have to stand for the pledge. But you're exactly right. They do have to be respectful.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a good example of,
I did remind them this past week or the week, whenever the Super Bowl was. I said, guys, did you watch the Super Bowl this weekend? I said, and I just throw it out there, to see what happened, because I don't want to impinge on any. I just wanted to. I said, did you see anybody kneeling this past weekend at the Super Bowl? And they're like, and they looked at me like I was crazy. But I said, go back and watch it. Everybody stood this weekend for the Super Bowl.
Just walk softly.
Yes, I did. I did tread softly. I said, I just wanted you to realize that fact. So, yeah.
That's right.
But they just laughed at me and kept sitting. I'm like, okay. So, it's fine.
Janelle, did you have a comment?
Oh no, I was just talking about that case where the kids refused to stand up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was funny because that case was not decided on a case of what was it? They were going after freedom of speech, I think, and
freedom of expression case that involved the public schools.
Yeah, it's an interesting case. I'm trying to think what page that was on.
It's on page 122.
Yeah, it's somewhere. I was going to say it's somewhere between 122 and 121 and 123. So it must be 122. Yeah, that was a good case. Hardwick versus Hayward. All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments about stuff that we've read?
Dr. Z, I have a question.
Yes.
The girls that are working with our school right now have presented to SIT, I think 3 times, tried to get the dress code changed, which is awesome that we have a group of students that are doing this. They're headed up, they're spearheaded, they're leading everything. My question is, if we have new leadership in our school, as well as a new superintendent, we have a district policy, a district honor code, and a school policy that all 3 reference dress code, but they're not the same. So which one would trump which in that case? Because that's where we're having a big run around with it. Is there one that's the go-to?
The Board of Education trumps everybody.
The local board.
Yes.
We're one of the very few systems that our board is not elected.
Oh, are you the city school system?
Yes, ma'am. Our board is appointed.
Yeah.
It's yeah, we're our own anomaly.
Yeah, Kannapolis was a city school system too. There are very few of those around.
There's one in Virginia where I used to teach at.
Yeah.
Prince Edward County is
right.
still a very appointed. I used to teach there, and that's an appointed county too. And I'm thinking that's just craziness.
Now, Kannapolis is elected, but it is a city school system, which is very small. We have 5 elementaries, 1 high school, 1 middle school, and 1 intermediate. And they're just in the process of redoing that to where they'll have like 2 middle schools, I think, instead of the intermediate. But anyway.
So the local board is the one that should trump anything.
That's for you. That's who pays you. Well, the state pays you, but the local board, that's who your contract's with.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? You know, I think when I became a principal, I was so surprised. I can remember in the interview, the assistant superintendent saying to me, "You have the job, but let me tell you, it's the loneliest chair you will ever sit in." And I didn't really get that until I sat in that chair. And I remember walking down the hall one day, and this, I always think about this when y'all do the OMA. So I'm walking down the hall one day, and the kids are lined up outside the bathroom. I'm way down the hall. It's at lunchtime. And I'm like, what are fifth graders doing over here? Why are you not down at your bathroom? And they're like, well, it's closed. I said, why's your bathroom closed? Well, they're cleaning the bathroom. I'm like, why are they cleaning the bathroom at lunch? Well, we always do that. So I go down to the fifth grade hall. Sure enough, custodians have it blocked off. They're in there cleaning the bathroom. I'm like, what are you doing cleaning the bathroom? It's lunchtime. That's when they have an instructional break and they're out here and everybody needs to go to the bathroom. He's like, yeah, well, if I don't do it now, I won't get it done before I go home at 3 o'clock. And I said, well, why do you go home at 3 o'clock? And he's like, well, that's my hours. I work like 8 to 3. I'm like, well, that's not when I need you to work. I need you to be here before the teachers come. And I need somebody to be here late in the afternoon to lock up the building. Who locks up the building? He said, well, you do. I'm like, whoa, I'm not liking this at all. But the main thing I'm not liking is having this bathroom closed down. So I called the director of operations and I said, hey, Will, I have a problem over here. I said, do you know that our custodians work the same hours as the students? He said, really? Yeah, they do. He said, wow, that doesn't make sense. I said, I know it doesn't. I said, do you know they close the bathrooms in the middle of the day in order to clean them so they can get it done? You know, and he's like, crazy, isn't it? I said, yeah, what are you going to do about it? He said, I'm director of operations. I just hire those people. Your job is to make sure they work within your building, within the schedule you need them to work. I just pay their salary, that's all. So if you have a problem, you know, you want me to help you with your building, but otherwise, they're your people. I said, so I can call them in here and tell them to work from 7 to 2 and one to work from like 9 to 6 or whatever I want. Yes. Wow. I had no idea. And how much fun was that for me? Really. Just came into the school like 2 days later. I'm calling in the whole custodial staff going, hey guys, you can't all three work the hours that the students work. And you've enjoyed these teacher work days staying at home and taking your vacation, but that's when I need you here doing the heavy duty work. And you need to work during Christmas vacation, and you need to work during the summer and all of these other times that you've been taking these big days without pay. I expect you to work. So the OMA always reminds me that, hey, that is your place. That's your house. And how it runs is up to you. And when you look at these laws, yes, you have to make sure, and I always notice Melanie's like, yeah. You have to make sure that you've got the back of the central office. But within the walls of that building and the people that operate in that building, you have to make wise decisions about your students. They are entrusted to your care. And if the safety of those children means that you don't wash down the bathrooms in the middle of the day and let them walk in there 30 minutes later and slide halfway across the room, and you have to upset somebody by changing their schedule so that those bathrooms are done after 3 o'clock, then that's what you do. So it is a big job and a big responsibility, but it is probably the greatest job ever and the most rewarding. Because if you are a creative problem solver and you look at a problem and think, that's something that doesn't need to be that way. Those bathrooms don't need to be closed down in the middle of the day. And this is the idea, I have to fix that. And then you fix it. And you fix it, and 600 students and 70 staff members are better off. And 2 people are unhappy, but they get over it. You just do a lot of brownies and biscuits, and they eventually get over it. But it is a wonderful job. So hang in there with what you're doing and what you're studying. Don't let this loss scare you, but at the same time, now is the time for you to dig in. That's the hard thing about online is nobody's standing behind you, making sure that you do it. But this is the time for you to dig in and ask the questions and see if this makes sense to you, so that when you get that job and you start to react to a situation, you think, nope, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to take that cap off of that student yet. I'm not going to do this or that until I step back and call my backup and make sure that I'm within my legal rights to do it. And once you do that, it's a piece of cake. It really is. Anybody else have anything? All right, let me tell you who I have down to turn in that was here. And if you make sure I didn't miss you, I have JP, Melanie, Becky, Janelle, Carla, Harriet, Dorothy, Nicole, Sarah, Lori, Kendra, Katie. Did I miss anybody? All right. If you have any questions this week, be sure to let us know. Otherwise, you're doing a great job on everything, and just don't get behind. Stay on top of those peer reviews. And when peer reviews make suggestions for your revisions, make sure that you go back in and be sure that those things are corrected. I know some of you had things that people said you need to fix this, and I got some emails that said they told me to change this, but I already thought this, and I agree. So be sure you do that kind of thing, because when it gets to Dr. Whitaker, she's going to take your peer reviews and see if you fixed what they suggested before she evaluates it. And if she tells you to fix something, then when it comes to me, I'm going to look and make sure that you fixed what she told you to. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time. We spend a lot of time going through all of your artifacts to make sure that they're right. So if we tell you to fix something or to change something, and both of us, Dr. Whitaker and I, were both evaluators. We've been evaluators a lot longer than we've been instructors. So we know what happens on the other side of TaskStream. So if we tell you something needs to be fixed, you need to go ahead and just bite the bullet and do it. And it's usually something minor. And besides that, it's a really good practice. Just pretend like I'm the superintendent and you're the principal, and you want to do something your way, and I'm saying, no, I want you to do it my way. It's good practice for you, because that's what happens when you get in the chair, too. The superintendent's the one person that can trump you, no matter what. So, all right, thanks for joining me. Any questions, let me know. And I hope you have a good rest of the week. And I'll be looking for you on discussion board. All right, good night.